an attorney could go into the court system and says, yes, but there is a reasonably back financial expectation because phosphate mining is one of the many zonings that they could apply for. That property is worth more than a comprehensive plan designation that did not include this opportunity for phosphate mining. And so it gave this chilling effect of land use regulations at the local level, at the county commission, city commission level, that this reasonably backed financial expectation was this higher, more difficult level of property rights to enforce at the local level. So Bert J. Harris had not so much an impact on the actual constitutional rights of a particular property owner, but it had an absolutely devastating impact over the entire state of Florida in terms of the chilling effect that it had on local government officials and their ability to discern what zoning was appropriate for a particular property versus another because of the Bert J. Harris.
I spent my money-making career in a few young years in public. I worked as a respiratory therapist, so I'm a medical person. And the public health ramifications of not paying attention to the very far-reaching effects that this pollution has blow me away, because to me, we're looking at saying, well, we're going to commodify, and we're doing it. We've commodified the state, we've commodified each other. And where is the public good? Where's the protection for the public in that? It gets lost. It's not part of the arithmetic that validates, the money streams, decisions that are being made. And I think that's a question that we all need to be asking. Our public servant folks that we elect to guard the public health and protect the environment. So that's a big consideration for me. I hope it is for you guys. I mean, we all drink the water, and what happens to the water happens to all of us. I'm just gonna. Does anybody have a question from the audience?
I have a really easy one. How much does a thing cost? How much does a Geiger counter cost?
Well, the one that we used, I think, is about $150 to $200, and it's the one that the county and the state used. So we wanted to mimic what kind of readings they'd be getting. So you can have that information for very affordable and reliable.
I have a question about properties. I have a question about properties. When you buy other properties, like in Pennsylvania or New York or something, when you buy them, you can buy the mineral rights too. That also protects you. Does the state of Florida have anything like that when you buy property? If you could buy the mineral rights to it to stop somebody like this?
Yes. Yeah. Again, property rights are a bundle of rights. They're not a right. They're a bundle of rights. They include water rights, land use rights, air rights, property rights, the whole. So I remember as a young real estate broker in Sarasota selling some of the brand new properties that were for sale in Lake Sarasota. And I'm not going to mention the developer's name because he was a very close friend of my father's. But he retained the mineral rights to those properties. And the subsequent sales afterwards became very difficult because the mineral rights were a cloud on the title. And a lot of people couldn't secure mortgages to buy the properties from the people of the original purchasers because of what's his name's retention of those mineral rights. So they're very rarely an issue, And the story I just gave you is really more of a novelty than anything of substance. But absolutely, yeah, there's mineral rights that are transferred in the bundle of property rights in a general warranty deed.
Jane, I'd like to contribute to this question.
Yes, please.
So, property rights are very important. Do they rise to the level of being fundamentally important? Are they as important as your right to free speech or freedom of religion? So, our organization is working to amend our state constitution to give every Floridian a fundamental right to clean and healthy waters, which means that when push comes to shove in a courtroom, fundamental right would take precedence over the lesser right of property rights. We can take a different legal action, because what are we talking about here? We saw absolutely appalling things in that film. What rises to a higher level of importance than people's health, the quality of their lives? Yes, property rights are important. Some things are more important, and this constitutional right recognizes that.
Two questions. First off, did you personally invite any of our elected officials on the local, state level, from our representatives, state senators, legislators, local commissioners? Was anybody personally invited? Did you actually get declinations? Because normally they don't want to turn their back on you and they'll send some low-level staffer, but you want somebody to see what you're talking about, because the younger people today are more willing, I think, to listen. So that's my first question. My second question is, your documentary is extremely powerful. Where have you sought distribution? Have you gone to the New York Documentary Film Festival? Have you contacted major news outlets? Because if the corruption is deep-seated across the entire state of Florida, then it is more than just a local story that needs to be heard. So those are my two questions.
You know, and I completely agree. I think that what we see in the movie is an example that almost every town goes through right now. And, you know, we've seen it numerous times over and over. So the one danger is we didn't want the movie to be treated as just this one local issue. We wanted it to be seen as a wider issue. You know, and then for us, we were really surprised to see, you know, like when we heard about the right to clean water, to find out that there's no constitutional right in Florida to have clean water. That's a shocking thing to find out, especially knowing that Mosaic can have over 100 million gallons a day that they can take, use, and then replace back into what eventually becomes the drinking water, which is then, you know, pumped with a bunch of other chemicals to try to clean it. So, you know, it may be the only way that I've seen that we can actually stop, you know, this kind of problem. The movie distribution was very challenging. I will say, as far as local officials, we had a lot of issues in Florida. You know, we were warned not to use certain water testing labs and to go out of state, which is why we went to Georgia. It ended up, you know, not working out the way we hoped. But, you know, we invited a lot, and the response we've had so far from the politicians is they're not very happy with our movie. So unfortunately, we haven't found the right people to help champion the idea to go bigger. And we did find one distribution company that was willing to take on Mosaic, just in case they came after us legally, Cinema Leave Studio. But we're looking for bigger distribution because we would like the movie to be seen. You know, I think everybody in every community will say, oh, that, you know, that reminds me of somebody I know, or that's a familiar story. So I'd like to see it go bigger. And especially with rising cancer rates, especially environmental cancers.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. So the common resources that we use, like the water, the air, there's no laws that protect that?
There are laws that protect that. Many of them are not being enforced. How do you get your government to enforce some of its own laws? I am often asked, don't we already have enough water quality laws? If we did, would our waters be in the condition that they are in? In the film, you're talking about the importance of local efforts in fighting issues like this. In Cape Coral, we're fighting an issue, somebody wants to build in wetlands right after we got our kick from Hurricane Ian. Everyone got flooded, and now someone wants to build there. We can only do so much with our local efforts. Sometimes you need a bigger tool, a legal tool. That's what this provides. In case you don't know, it was in 2020 that our legislature preempted the authority of local governments to pass laws granting citizens any rights to any aspect of the natural world. It was that preemption that forced our hand and launched our Citizens Initiative to amend the Constitution. The other thing it told us was they must really think that a rights-based approach to environmental protection would be effective, or else they would not have gone out of their way to preempt the authority of local governments to pursue rights to clean water laws.
Right, and then, the other thing, the first thing is thank you for bringing awareness to this. I hope we start funding those agencies that monitor our air and water quality. I guess we could ask our politicians to put the money in, to hire the people back to do that. But, the second thing, what actually did you test in the water? How many chemicals did you test for? Is it all specific? You have to say, test for this, or that, or what?
Yes, the water tests, a lot of them that we did were what they call preliminary, which are just, we wanted to take a look at some of the phosphate levels, and a couple just basic things that, we could monitor for with just even a pool test kit. And then the others are the qualified water tests that we send into the labs, and those are very expensive. Excuse me, but so those are expensive. So the only thing we could test for was radon. I think it was 226 and 228, and that was our main interest, was to see if those were being, staying in the water. And when you see the number of over 4,000, that is what we were testing for, is the radon 226, 228. That is one of the biggest problems and unfair advantages that these companies have. Is they say, okay, you guys have to go out and you have to go find $100,000, go do this qualified water testing, and then bring it to the table and we'll talk. And to me, it's very backwards. They should be proving to the residents that, and they should be spending the money to prove that it works, because it is a hobbling of a lot of the counties and a lot of the citizens to be able to fight back properly.
Well, then they're not really the guardians if they're not producing that. And isn't that written in their contract to be a guardian? You shall provide all testing.
That would be nice to get. I think they've gotten away. They've definitely got away with that. Toothless enforcement is always a problem in environmentalism. Everywhere we've gone in the world, there's always, what Joe said was, there's a lot of the laws there, but the enforcement is definitely tricky. Whether it's corruption or just, chop the budget. So you got one guy maybe going out there, and a lot of people that are in that also have to, I think, kind of fall in line very often. So we have lost our watchdogs, and we need them back. And I think the only watchdogs we have right now are us, citizens, which is why I'm very excited about right to clean water, because it's kind of the only thing I've seen where we can jump over this fence, stopping us and take the power.
Last thing, if they stop mining right now, how many years is the damage that they've already done going to be leaching into our aquifers, into the Gulf of Mexico?
It's a great question, because of all the different half-life of what's out there, and it is, you know, from what I was reading, it would be thousands of years before the land would be back to its normal status, especially with the amount of destruction that's gone through there. If it stopped just today. That, I don't know science enough to really know. There's probably somebody out there that knows better than me. That's the estimates I
Let me add first, before we go to the next question about this concept of enforcement, because I don't know a lot about these science, but I do know a little bit about politics. And you have 3 branches of government. I know it's really hard to understand that in today's national code, but we really do. And we had the executive branch, which this film clearly illustrated that locally, at least in the state of Florida, was eviscerated by a governor named, now the U.S. Senator, Rick Scott, which is inexcusable. But we have another branch, and it's the judiciary. And I go back a couple generations of individuals fighting this battle, and I would not be able to go home tonight without knowing that I called attention to one particular individual who started this battle 50-something years ago, and her name was Gloria Rains. And Gloria Rains was this very small in physical structure woman who had the courage of Goliath, and she went up against this phosphate industry virtually single-handedly in this organization that she started called Minnesota 88, and she was the first person to bring attention to everything that we know today. And she was an inspiration to me. I know she was an inspiration to many people, or at least a few people in the audience today that knew her personally. But her actions should act as a motivation for all of us in the room today that we don't have to stand for this, you know. And if it comes to doing the right thing or the wrong thing, and the only place that we have to look to is our judiciary, she was unabashed. She would sue these sumbitches, right, at the drop of a hat, and she was victorious. She oftentimes was victorious in her defeats because she would lose the suit, but in the settlement of her loss, she was able to negotiate all of these changes in these water quality parameters and all of these things that happen today that are the bedrock for all of us to stand on. So I can't help but, I had to mention Gloria Rains. She was an inspiration to me, and she started this whole thing.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Thaxton, for being a great county commissioner and for all you've done for Sarasota. We appreciate that. And I wanted to circle around to the young lady who asked about, well, what has been done. I was the person speaking on behalf of Sarasota County and DeSoto in the small clip, although I weigh 125 pounds less, so I'm not recognized. But I was the president of the Environmental Caucus of Sarasota County Democrats. Yes, there was such a thing. And I would have been the same for the other side of the aisle if they had such an organization, because I feel so strongly about this town, where my family's also been since the 1950s. And I'm very scared, you know, if you look at where they want to mine in DeSoto, Pine Level, it's very like 9 miles as the crow flies to Myakka State Park.
It's the former county seat for Sarasota.
Correct. It used to be the county seat of DeSoto County.
Which was Sarasota.
Which was Sarasota County, yeah. And we used to be Manatee County, so, and Hillsborough before that. We're not here for a history lesson, but my question is, what is going on with DeSoto? Because it was my understanding through the mediation after the county voted 4-1 no, that Mosaic could come back and get everything lock, stock, and barrel, including 8 of these ponds where they could also truck in water from other counties and then dump it down the Peace River. Very scared and sad about what could happen here. I'm getting the feeling, because I did go to all of our officials, by the way, and they pretended they didn't know. Yeah. Oh, I brought them the maps from the Mosaic hearings that I actually took photos of, so there was like no mistaking where this was happening, where along the border, how this was going to be impacting waterways, Horse Creek, this one, all these different tributaries. And they just sort of looked at me like, oh, we don't know, and didn't seem to care that it will impact the citizens everywhere around here.
Last week, they approved to use all the stone and rock that comes out of there for our highways and freeways and everything. So it's been approved already to use stuff that is radioactive in our roads, sidewalks, playgrounds, parks.
Yes, and it's my understanding, because of the Piney Point, which we led a rally downtown with the former Commissioner of Agriculture on Earth Day, Nikki Freed. And we were on the TV because, they decided to deep well injection that processed water. And now, of course, since precedent has been set, what's stopping Mosaic from asking for the same, which I'm understanding they're doing that as well. So I hope, I get the feeling, since phosphate mining's been happening since the 1800s, late 1800s here, but never along, not this huge corporation, Mosaic, which is publicly traded, but it's owned by the Cargill Corporation, which is the, I believe, the richest, last time I read, privately held company in the United States. So they're huge, and the government is kowtowing to them totally, because I went and met that one guy from the FDEP, and it was so obvious for whom he was working, and it wasn't for us. So, yeah, I did a lot, and I tried a lot, and I got discouraged, but I came here tonight because I wanted to meet Eric and just say thank you to everybody who's here and cares, and to talk to people in this movie. You can view it online. And Eric did try to get statements from the company, and they didn't want to. It's a crazy thing, but they're so large. It really was in DeSoto County, like, David going against Goliath, and they won. And so now I'm just worried, like, what's going to happen? Does anyone know where that stands? Are they going forward with that, or any other counties? Because when I was a kid growing up here, and we'd have these sort of mishaps, they just went bankrupt, and then the taxpayer paid to clean up the stuff. But it used to be like Sarasota County, which we have it in our charter that we will not have phosphate mining here. We would always pay for the lawyers and stuff for the other counties like Manatee, which did succumb to it. Charlotte County will not allow Gipstack to be there. I'm just wondering, does anyone know what's happening with DeSoto? Thank you.
The last I heard, they pushed it back further. And I've heard around 2028, some people have told me 2030 that they're going to try to come back. Right now, they're trying to do a sludge and deep well injection. So they've kind of moved their, sort of their attack on what they are looking for. But as far as going back and trying to get, they just keep pushing it back. And we hope it's because of everybody standing up and all these different efforts. And there's so many groups fighting against them right now, that, we hope we can just keep staving them off, because, the danger was when they were denied and they threatened to sue, they were gonna come back and it's one meeting for all the permits. Normally, there is a meeting per permit and there's multiple land use permits that they need. They bundled it, so they only have to do one vote to put all of them through at once. So it is high stakes.
A lot of money involved with it, definitely.
Steve, did you want this? Give it to me when you're finished.
So I have a question, but I'd also would feel remiss if I didn't mention one other ray of hope. I'm all for the political and legal avenues, but there's one other avenue that can be done by any individual parallel to that, and that is don't use chemical fertilizers. More and more I'm seeing, I work a lot in water and biology, organic farmers don't use chemical fertilizers. And more communities are, Babcock Ranch is an example, Palmer Ranch is looking at it too, using biology instead of chemistry. And that's how nature works. You don't need to fertilize or water or apply glyphosate to the natural system. So getting into the market, penetrating the market, I have read, for example, that glyphosate will start to crumble if 13%, they lost 13% of their market. So it doesn't take much, and a lot of European countries have outlawed some of these chemicals, by the way. So that's something that that we can do as individuals is buy food that's grown organically, that doesn't use chemicals, treat our lawns with biology as opposed to chemicals, and that's just another avenue but it's market-based. My question, which I think has been somewhat answered, is I guess it's outlawed in Sarasota County to do phosphate mining, although we get our water from Peace River. Does anyone know if they test for radon?
They don't. Because if they did, they would have to advertise, so they don't test it for it.
I'll have to ask them.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that one interesting aspect is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with PWG.org. They have a tap water database where they've tested extensively all the water. So we always recommend for people to check that out as a first point of contact, because you can really look at what is in there. And you know, the problem is they don't test for it, and they add a lot of chlorine and a few other chemicals to mask whatever may be there. So yeah, we definitely.
I'd like you to stand up. Okay. I'm Kathy Benz, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Right to Clean Water Initiative here in Sarasota County. Stand up, please. And this is Monica. And we need volunteers. We need help getting signatures. If you're interested in helping us, please contact Monica.
Can I go back to what Steve, the speaker before was Steve Swall? He's one of the leading stormwater, he is the leading stormwater engineer in Southwest Florida. And he was speaking to this concept of soil. And it's always been very special to me personally and as a professional. I worked on and co-authored the first fertilizer ordinance in the state of Florida. I worked on the state's fertilizer task force, and this idea, and I came up with this bumper sticker. I love bumper sticker politics, and because it simplifies things. And so I came up with this idea that we need to stop treating our soil like dirt. And it's so true. And when you look at the photographic images of this phosphate mining, it's very true that if you look at phosphate mining's impact on the earth, it just touches the very, very thin surface of the earth's epidermis. And that's critical because that's where all the life is, right? All the life happens in that thin epidermis that this industry is absolutely destroying and cannot restore. This concept that they can come in and remove this epidermis that took tens or hundreds of thousands of years to create, this biological living organism, and just destroy it and recreate it in 5 or 10 years is absolutely absurd. And one of the things that upsets me most about the phosphate industry's mining techniques is that they're literally skinning us alive. They're leaving all of our vital organs and our tissue exposed to anything and everything. And the natural system cannot function that way any more than our bodies can function without our epidermis protection layer. And so to me, it's important that we understand this value of this stratified soil profile that creates the entirety of life that we know it. and how it's so irreparably disrupted by this industry. And it's happening in these most significant watersheds, as you saw in the movie, the Mayak and the Peace and Horse Creek and all of these watersheds that are so critical to the survival of our estuarine and our near coastal water marine systems. It's, for me, is even a novice environmentalist, even a person that doesn't have formal training in this, it's ridiculous to think that this system can function when we take away this vital organism that has sustained its life for the last 1 to 10 million years.
I have a question, hope you can hear me. Do you, the right to clean water, do you have a GoFundMe type of page? Do you have something that can bring in all sorts of money that you'll need in order to make your ideas become national? They gotta start somewhere, and you need lobbying, you need someone, you need a group, you need, I just see you need help.
We do need help.
And you need money in order to get to, money talks, nobody walks, and it actually will work.
So you can go to our website, FloridaRightToCleanWater.org, and people can donate there, PayPal, other means.
Can you
But,
spread that around to the point where,
We are doing our best. We could use more help spreading it around. Here is the bottom line. We need an army of people to help us collect petitions. Last time around, in which we did not qualify for the 2024 ballot, we collected 120,000 petitions. If every one of those people had taken 20 minutes and gotten 5 other people to sign petitions, that would have been $700,000. We'd be knocking on the door of qualification. We still need 800,000 petitions by the end of this year. We have petitions here to sign. I can tell you, if you sign it and you think it's one and done, that is not going to get us over the finish line. So we need buy-in, we need support from big organizations. Faith communities alone in Florida can get us 900,000 signed petitions on one Sunday of the year. If they give it the effort, big organizations can do it. We either need that, or we need about $10 to $12 million to go out and get people, and pay people to collect petitions, or some combination. But if we don't get those things, we will not qualify. I can tell you that directly.
thank you for saying that.
Very simple question. Where can we get the petitions that we can take out to get people to sign?
We've got them here tonight.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a lot of them. You know, I have a lot of friends up in Bradenton, and I'd like to,
Well, Monica just ordered 5,000.
I have several hundred with me today that I could give people to
And
take.
will that
with
be,
them.
I'd like to be able to have constant ability to access it.
So you and I can talk, I can give
Okay.
you my number and,
Can we print them off the website?
yeah,
or
you
something?
can
Simple
print them off the
question.
website, you can print them on a copy
Good.
machine.
Believe it or
And-
not, this is not just an
Yes.
issue here, this goes all the way down to Everglades, all the way up the East Coast and everything, everybody's feeling the pollution problem.
And on the petition is the address where you just send them into.
Excellent.
Strong recommendation. Don't simply hand somebody a blank petition and urge them to send it in. You have them sign it, you take it back from them, and then you get them to Monica.
Five fit in an envelope with one stamp.
Have you reached out to the Bay Conservancy? They're all about water quality and how they're fixing up the bayfront. You know, I'm referring to the bay by Van Wezel, not the bayfront where Marina Jack is. Is anybody here familiar with the Bay Conservancy?
I am.
Okay, so I'm thinking, you know how you wanna have outreach, you have to have a table at events.
We have tables at events.
So that's my question, the Bay Conservancy has events almost every single day of the week. And every weekend, they have several hundred people show up to the free concerts.
So what we need
So
are
that's what I'm
people,
wondering, has anyone reached out to them?
I honestly don't know. We've reached out to hundreds of organizations. We have over 250 that have officially endorsed us. But we need people to be at those tables.
No, but
Monica can't be
I'm
at
just, not to, I'm trying to be real specific.
Yeah, I'm not.
Have we
In the
reached out
past,
to
we
them?
may have. The problem we run into is we are not allowed. We are not allowed in a lot of places.
What's the reason why, what's the reason you say?
I don't know the particular reason, but
Let me have
They
it.
won't give you a permit for it because they don't want to have to face it.
you need a permit to get
Open up
signatures.
a table at some events, yes, ma'am.
Sometimes, but not,
There are only certain properties where you can go on without permission in order to do this. And there are a couple of places that are very productive, and we know that. The Division of Motor Vehicles is a wonderful place because there's people constantly going there. And they, believe me, if we can get this on the ballot, it will pass. Floridians have passed every single initiative like this, always. The problem has always been enforcement, because there's never been enforcement in the laws and the legislation that we've passed. That's why we need a constitutional amendment. If you have petitions to turn in, Bookstore One will accept them, DNR Motors will accept them, and if you need to get in touch with either of us, we'll come get them. I don't care about that. People don't have stamps and they don't have envelopes. So we find that if you give it to somebody and you tell them to move it in, to mail it in, they may have the intention, but it doesn't necessarily get done. We really need people out there helping us in contacts wherever you go, whatever organization you belong to, gathering them and getting them back to us.
Nothing comes close to one person standing in front of another and simply asking them to sign the petition. Urging people to go to the website, download the petition, sign it. Most people will not go through the trouble to do that.
Can I just say that, more and more we're seeing the power of networks. You know, the power really of networks is top right, yeah, that's on my only point. But we really need to get all, like the Bay, I mean, it's really, we don't need to operate, I know, Joe, it's face to face, but we need to get, the networks, inspired. We've got more than 100 organizations here in Sarasota that are environmental organizations. And there's no reason we can't do that.
No, we just need the people to push it.
There's an event called the Big Waters Land Trust in the Osprey Park down there.
Big Water Land Trust.
It's called Wild About Nature. And I believe they renamed themselves recently to the Big Waters Land Trust.
They were formerly the Sarasota County Conservation Foundation, then Conservation Foundation of Southwest Florida, now the Big Waters Land Trust.
And they're having an event called Wild About Nature next month. It's a free event. If you guys could get to that and get involved with that.
Well, that's
We
what
can
they're
take that
saying. If they could get people like us, they'll take petitions like that and go set up a table and just do it free spirit, because if we all take a part of it and all go out and set up somewhere, that is us doing our part. I don't want my kids to inherit houses or cars. I want them to inherit clean water and clean land. So I take my kids, I set up a table, and I try to inform people as we go out to each event we go to without, pushing too hard, getting in trouble. I mean, I've been arrested for being on Mosaic's property and stuff, just taking pictures.
I think you have to get permission for an event like this.
Well,
So someone has to get
that's where we can go ourselves as individual people. I don't make art, I don't do any of that, but I'll take petitions and I'll go stand there and hand them out and tell them, fill them out, please, I need this. This is really life or death. If you look at these people up here
Get them to sign it in your presence,
and take it and send it in.
take it to the bookstore.
Make it as easy as you can for other people, because people have become real relaxed, even though this should be the most important situation, because if we don't have clean water, none of us have clean life.
If you take petitions and you go to get them signed, don't just give them to people. The most effective way is to patiently wait for them to fill it out, make sure they've done it correctly, and then take it back and tell them you will submit it. And then you can drop them off. The bookstore is open 7 days a week. And they've been collecting our petitions for a couple of years now, through the first campaign and this one. DNR Motors on Central Avenue is also.
I got clipboards and everything, because right now what they're gonna do is, they're talking about drilling in the Everglades and mining it, all the trees. So
Okay, we'll give you petitions, and if you run out, all you have to do is Xerox them too.
I'm taking names after this.
Whatever I can, I appreciate it.
Right, so what we need in Sarasota, besides 2 captains, are volunteers. We need a team in Sarasota.
You need a public relations and a media person.
Right, there you go.
You need someone to tell me what a Xerox is.
I'd just like to add, I went to 5 of the Mosaic workshops, and one of the great things that I saw evolve over that time was a lot of people showed up, and we could only speak for 3 minutes. Mosaic could wax loquacious as far as they wanted to, but people started teaming up, and 10 people would come and say, I want to speak for 3 minutes, and then they'd turn their time over to the Center for Biological Diversity. And I saw them blow Mosaic out of the water, because they were asked by the county commission. The county commission asked Mosaic, do you have any litigation that happened in the past, or any pending litigation? And they thought about it a little bit, and they said, no, we don't have anything like that. Well, they certainly did, and this great attorney from Center for Biological Diversity got up and just blew them out of the water. And it was a delight. It was all I could do to keep from standing up and cheering. There was a connectivity that happened because we showed up there repeatedly. And we're all connected still. That's what we need to do. Because when we're in relationship with each other, we're powerful. And they're not. We're on the right side. And there's an energetic thing about what are you for rather than what are you against. And I think that's a real critical shift in how we go forward with what we're trying to do. We're in the right. This is what we're supposed to be doing.
This is life.
Especially in a time right now where we see so much division. I think all of us in the environmental world think in unity, because we know that we have that power. And I have an environmental cancer, because although people have worked on environmental issues for a long time, they started on different wider ones, and it's been drilling down and down. But this right here, this right to clean water, could prevent people. It's not the right to just clean drinking water. It's the right to not get cancer because of where you live and because of what you drink. And it's the right to not get all these other diseases. So it's a right to not get sick as well. And my hope, seeing everybody here, really is very moving to me, because I think another generation or two, they're not going to have to face what I did, because everybody was activated, and it's a different time now. It's a beautiful time, and it's really amazing to see. And I fully believe we can get rid of environmental cancers. Can be stopped, because it's as simple as turning off a valve. It's not quite that simple, but it technically is. So I think that this movement that we're seeing here and seeing all this energy for it is, we can get rid of a lot of this, and soon too.
Water is the linchpin if your water is healthy and safe, the environment inevitably is safe too.
Absolutely.
Beautifully said, yes.
I just have a quick observation. I'm a retired nurse from Washington State,
Thank you.
and I came down to see my Army buddy and stayed down here in Frostproof, not far from Sebring. I knew nothing about Mosaic. I guess Mosaic. But one thing I knew immediately was his water was unpalatable. I could not drink it. And I didn't have like this water, like water's water to me here, it was. And I couldn't drink it. And he has health problems. He has a well, and it's right next to a lake, Clinch Lake. Is that any relation? Or?
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yes.
Any one of these springs that you see that you swim in, you go pay for, they are all interconnected, every one of them.
They're all
So they're
polluted.
all interconnected. When they go to deep well, 400 feet or 500 feet down, and they say it's not gonna affect it, but our farmers get the water at 300 feet, and then we get it from 100 foot down to 200 foot. And it all still comes bleeding up through like a sponge. So we all are gonna get affected no matter where you are in Florida. So either way, you have to stick up for this, because if not, it doesn't matter where you are. Like I said, it's affecting people down the Everglades. That's a couple 100 miles away. And this is affecting them down there.
Isn't it it's the sandstone? I mean,
Yep, limestone's like a sponge.
it's the only state in the.
Because it would be taking care of the people.
I'd like to thank you for bringing that up. That's an awesome thing. One of the books that I've read in the last couple of years that was real powerful for me was the book Braiding Sweetgrass. And if you haven't read it, I'm going to encourage you to do so. The 20th century was, for me, we glorified the acquisition of stuff and things. It's a very intellectual, in your head period. And we've lost our heart connectedness. And what you're talking about is getting back to the heart, because that's where real things happen, and that's where we can truly connect. It's not going to be through intellectual machinations that we seem to love to do so much. I'd like to talk to you about that project. Thank you.
And that, it's interesting, Jane, just thinking about that, because if I had a glass of water and I said, if your kid drinks this, they're guaranteed to get cancer, anybody would run and smack that water out of their hand. And, in the very way that you were just talking about, and remind me of that, if we remember that our kids and our grandkids, even if it's coming in from that starting point, if everybody thinks that way, we're all thinking together as well. Just interested in what you're talking about, Jane. Think about the compassion part.
There's a special power. The power of love gets short-changed, I think. We tend to dismiss it, and that is what really rooted the success of the civil rights movement. That rolled into the anti-war stuff, and all the different movements that sprung from that. It didn't happen because people thought witty things. It happened because somewhere deep inside of us, we recognized our commonality and that we were all connected. And that's unstoppable. I mean, when enough people get there, it's going to roll over all kind of nonsense. So we have to nurture that among ourselves and within each other. Put yourself in time out if you've listened to the news too much. I do it. I have to. It's good self-care. Any other questions or comments?
Just a statement. I would ask those people who are still here to commit to collecting a certain number of petitions and getting them to Monica or Kathy.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think you can.
A million signatures, I mean, that's easy. How many people are in Florida?
It should be incredibly easy. This is very doable, but people have to do it.
Yeah, but you need to, I liked your, the church idea, which really, you can just do it on Earth Day.
And you need to motivate everyone you know that lives in Florida, because this is Florida-wide. It isn't just Sarasota. And your encouragement to people in other areas is going to be important too.
Is you doing something for Earth Day?
Yeah, we just decided we would do that, because we're in charge of the service on Earth Day, so it's easy. So we can just have everybody in the church get a petition that day. And sign it and hand it in. Sign it, text them both.
So this was an idea that Joe Iannone had proposed a couple of years ago. Pick one Sunday,
Yeah.
all the congregations, or even half the congregations, a quarter of the congregations in Florida.
Yeah.
That's the day to collect right to clean water
Well,
petitions,
yeah.
and we'd be there already.
Yeah, and we now have a social, we now have a, it's one of those long names, it's a Social Justice Alliance for the Southwest Suncoast, or whatever, Suncoast. But, so we're gonna show, bad faith on Sunday from 2 to 5, and we'll have a handout that day that'll have, the website on it. Maybe have the petition. Maybe do that, yeah, we could do that.
I have a question.
I want to just really thank you for making the film. This is an important film, and I was thinking you could send it to the politicians.
Yeah.
Like, I would send it to people, because there will be people that watch it, and there are people that really do care. They do care. When they see something like this, that's the kind of thing that impacts someone. I mean, it impacted everyone here tonight.
Especially the ones you showed that had taken the Mosaic money.
If you really found out about Mosaic, they go around after they use properties, they've been known to build low-income housing on properties like that.
I thought of Love Canal, remember Love Canal?
Right.
And I can't imagine, well, we have the same problem here in Sarasota in a lot of different ways. We don't tell people that sludge was put on the land when people build on it. I mean, just things like that I would wanna know that. I would wanna know everything about that. So it does matter, people do care, and people don't know. And when people become educated, it shifts their consciousness. So I really do thank you for this. This is a very important piece that you did. And I worked on, one of the first things I worked on when I moved to Florida, it was like in 1990, we stopped CMI from building a phosphate mine that was gonna be, the gypsum stack was gonna be, you could see it when you came out Fruitful Road, all the way in for Fruitful Road. And we worked with people in Arcadia, et cetera, DeSoto County. This was in the early 90s. So, you know, you can stop things. It does take people, so thank you.
Thank you. It means a lot to hear that, because it's very personal, and, you know,
Very
it's,
personal.
yeah, and it really, you know, seeing the story, I was just shocked. Like, I didn't really think that I would see all that, bringing the camera down here and going out with everybody in the field, and that's the best thing you can do, and, you know, go take a look and see, you know, but I do have full hope that we can stop it, and that's what's so exciting about these screenings and these conversations.
And get it on PBS, get it on other things. You know, we live in Florida, we don't see that.
Right, and you know, it's interesting, politicians, we've sent it to a few have noticed it, and have come after us, actually. We have the America First Tea Party currently trying to bury us, and a few other political parties. So we have caught some attention, and a lot of them take phosphate money, so, which we've tracked, which is another reason why I hope that Right to Clean Water also, you know, passes sooner, because we are finding a lot of county commissioners are willing to watch and listen.
Oh, I was
Because they
thinking
do
saying
want
that to all of the DeSoto County Commissioners, they
Yes.
should definitely, and Sarasota, everybody should be watching this film. That
Thank
was
you,
in
yeah.
Florida.
Can we go after them for when they build a gypsum well? You know what it is, it's dry it's the same form of drywall which you have in your houses, so when it gets wet, it comes apart. So when you fill a gypsum mound-up, they know for a fact that sooner or later they're gonna have a blowout or a leak. So they're deliberately doing this by
Right.
building it out of what they're building out of, so
You know,
you could have some kind of,
well, you know, that's the thing is, you know, you're mentioning, CMI, a lot of these companies will morph into new companies and the industry will stay. And they have over 20, gypstacks. Currently, I think it's like 26, but I'm not 100% sure. 27? Yeah, in the state alone, and, you know, there's also a, legislative, thing that I've got to double check, but they put it into the legislation here that does protect the mining industry from being messed with at all, which is a really kind of why they own it, and that's why we're also working with some other groups to try to get some toxic tort sort of, you know, reform as well, to try to, you know, force them to change. But again, it comes back to the citizens, you know, get everybody together to, you know, get blood tests and show, you know, what's happening there. And I think it can be done, I really do. I mean, it's like you said, I've seen people, you know, they have stopped, you know, these massive companies, and DeSoto is a great example of it, and still keeping up.
Well, I always say we win some, we lose some.
Right, we gotta enjoy our victories, 'cause
Yeah, we just gotta keep going.
Well, your comment about this crazy law reminded me of what happened in Montana within the last couple of years. I hope you know about it. It was a youth climate case. Montana had a law in their books that prohibited their DEP from considering greenhouse gas emissions when weighing whether or not to give a fossil fuel company a permit to operate in Montana. And 16 young people sued Montana, their state government. They argued that this fossil fuel friendly law, which never should have been on the books, was unconstitutional because it was going to aggravate the climate crisis. They proved the climate crisis is real, they're already being impacted on it, and they said it was unconstitutional. In 1972, Montana voters amended their state constitution. Every Montana citizen has a right to a healthy environment. And in this case, the Supreme Court affirmed that that includes a healthy climate. So there have been a number of youth climate cases, a number of climate cases. This is the only one so far that has been successful because it was based on that constitutional right. There are about 20 other states in the nation right now trying to do the same thing that we're doing, because we're not the only ones who are suffering from, you know, the influence of special interests and such. It's a nationwide problem, and constitutional rights are at the apex of our environmental laws.
This isn't just for Florida. I was going to Apollo Beach last week. The train tracks that come out of, I guess that's Piney Point there. The train was miles long. The gypsum was stacked in the cars, over top. They weren't even covered on the train car. And right to the port, being shipped out. People that don't even know it's hitting them yet. It's never going away. I don't know how it's even possible that they're passing these situations to use that waste. Like, it's criminal.
Yeah.
You know, and they're, I believe they're supposed to have all that covered as well when it's coming out of the mines. It's something we would go and check, and you'd see the majority of the trucks coming out are not covered. It's just an extra step they don't want to have to take. So all that gypsum dust is flying in all around. So, you know, the protections, you know, like you say, they're far-reaching because where the trains go, all the roads that they're using, and soon, as everybody knows, the Florida roads are now going to be very dangerous, and they're going to build the first ones in Mosaic and make their workers the canary in the coal mine to see kind of what happens to that. And, you know, it's a shocking. I'm sorry, I have a quick question for Joe though, because I want to help get signatures as well. Is there anything we have to watch out for? Or is there anything that, you know, would be a disqualifier, or anything that a signature wouldn't, they would throw out, or?
Well, you have to sign in ink. do your best to make sure that your signature is what's on record with your SOB, or take a look at what you have on your driver's license. Most of the petitions that get rejected are rejected because of their signature.
And how old do you have to be?
You have to be a Florida registered voter.
Registered voter.
Anyone you get to sign must be a Florida registered voter.
But you can give out petitions and money anytime.
I keep thinking about the Geiger counters. And people, like it being the new thing that people buy. You know, you buy a Geiger counter, so you have your family, and then you can go out on these new roads. And that is like an amazing thing, you know, if you go out on, if you have hundreds of people going out there and checking it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're gonna pay a group for
that's only $150.
I love that idea, along with a dosimeter, which is really inexpensive, and those are cumulative. So if you were to put it on your car, it's like a small badge, and it'll change color based on your exposure. So once you get to a toxic level, the dosimeter will tell you. It would be really interesting to have them, for people to have them, buy them, and put them on their cars, and then, we have this great empirical proof that we could present. Really interesting. I love the idea.
All right, everybody, we want to thank you for coming out tonight. I think we reached our time limit. Feel free to stick around if you want to talk to me, our amazing panel. Thank them again for your time, for an amazing film. We want to thank you for coming out to Fogartyville tonight. Be sure to stick around. We'll see you at our next event.